Hello and welcome to WJTS in.form. There's an event coming up this Saturday at the Ferdinand State Forest that you and your family will want to participate in. And joining us in the studio is Judi Brown. Judi is the Executive Director for the Soil and Water Conservation District of this area. And also joining us is Adam Dumond. Adam is a forester. He is the district forester for a certain area, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. The event coming up at the Ferdinand State Forest, this is the second annual. And what is that event?
We call it the Family Nature Fest, and the purpose of it is to have people come out to the forest in the springtime, appreciate the wildflowers, and learn a little bit about forest management. We have samples of wood products. This is a big wood product area, and we produce beautiful hardwoods, and we're trying to get people out into the woods to take a look at the forest and learn a little bit how they're managed. And there will also be fun activities for kids. So it's a family-friendly event.
And you are with the Soil and Water Conservation District, and you're with the Department of Natural Resources, but it's actually the Forestry Committee that's putting this together?
Yes.
Which is, I guess, a collaboration of different organizations?
Yes.
Yeah, we're technically under the Dubois County SWCD is a major part of our group. We're actually in the Association of Indiana Soil and Water Conservation Districts. So we are sort of a semi-private group, but we're made up of government officials like myself and also private landowners, private individuals who just have a passion for forest management and seeing good forest practices throughout Dubois County and the rest of Southwest Indiana.
Okay, so we want to get people out to the forest to appreciate the woods, appreciate the forest. Will there be a charge? Are they charging gated admission? Not yet?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
So it's a free event, free all day.
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually 8 to noon.
Okay.
It's not all day, but 8 to noon. We do start off with a pancake breakfast at 8 o'clock, so that is being cooked on site by a scout group, a scout troop.
Okay, so you can buy breakfast.
You can buy breakfast. And
Yeah, there'll be
that's a
free will donations for the Boy Scouts.
But it helps the scouts, so
Yes.
make a little donation, right?
Yes, and it'll cover breakfast for the family, and then the events will kick off while the breakfast is still going on. So you don't even have to take the time at home to cook breakfast. You just come out and have a nice hot breakfast and then jump into the activities.
Now, at the Ferdinand State Forest, this is going to be held, really, what I consider at the back end of the Ferdinand State Forest. So you got to well, you really do. You got to go all the way through the Ferdinand Forest to the edge of the property line on the other end.
Yes.
And that's the
Sycamore shelter houses, yeah, which is at the very end of the property. It's near the forest office, actually.
past the dam.
Yes.
Past the
Yes.
lake. Where there's a lot of people get married down in that area. There's a lot of festivities down in there. Okay. And so what are some of the things that people will do? Should they bring something? How should they dress?
There are a couple of hikes planned, and I should say walks planned. They're not real strenuous, but there'll be a walk at 9 o'clock. I believe it starts a forest management tour. So, come prepared for the weather. Hopefully it's a sunny, warm day, and, just good sturdy shoes, possibly bug spray if you're worried about the ticks, because they are out. There'll also, later on in the morning, there'll be an invasive species hike. So there'll be 2 different hikes where people can actually go into the woods and look at some of the things that are growing and learn about management. And then an activity for the kids is an orienteering course that's going to be set up where the kids will actually use compasses and learn how to, use a compass and shoot directions and follow this course. So they'll want to be dressed too for
Hiking in the woods.
Yes, whatever the day brings. So.
Okay. So you may want to bring a jacket because it'll be cool early, but it'll get warm as the day goes along.
Yes.
Okay. Now the Ferdinand State Forest is a great place to hold something like this because it has a lot of different trees, species out there. But you mentioned the invasive species that are coming in, and I know the emerald ash borer is a concern. You brought a bat that is made from ash?
Yes, it's a Louisville slugger bat. It's made from genuine American authentic ash. And these things will be a thing of the past because the emerald ash borer is spreading from the east to the west in the United States, and it's killing the ash trees. Adam could probably elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know we for years we've heard about the emerald ash borer, but I thought it already kind of was in Dubois County and a big problem, but I guess not.
Yeah, the emerald ash borer is sort of the poster child for invasive species. It has really awareness nationwide, really, about the issue of invasive species because it is so destructive. It's original to sort of East Asia, China, Japan, that area. Was brought over here probably in the early 1990s, maybe mid-1990s, into the port of Detroit in shipping material, and since then has begun to spread in a sort of a radius out from there. So it's actually coming from the east and from the north. And really, most of northern Indiana is pretty well infested with it at this point. And it's making inroads into southern Indiana pretty rapidly. So we're going to see the effects of that here in Dubois County in a pretty short amount of time, the next few years probably. I mean, the emerald ash borer is obviously an insect, but the issue of invasive species goes beyond that, to plants, animals, even certain bacteria and fungus that do play a part in the forest ecosystem. As the Forestry Committee, our primary concern actually revolves around invasive plants, most of which are used primarily in the nursery trade and for home landscaping. And then they are, again, native to areas other than America and specifically Indiana. And they're used because they, have pretty flowers or pretty growth form, and they're very, very sturdy, very hard to kill for the average home landscaper. But that makes them a problem in the forest because they spread rapidly, produce a lot of seed, and can eventually take areas over.
I've heard that honeysuckle is
Yes.
really not native, and honeysuckle's everywhere.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And you can't get rid of it, can you?
It's possible, but it's a very labor-intensive process. Takes several years to do that.
Keep pulling out the roots.
Yes.
That's really what it
Yes.
comes down to.
So what we try to do is increase awareness about these issues, and specifically invasive plants that people should avoid. If they find it on their property, they should treat it. And if they are purchasing plants to use at home, they should try and purchase natives. And so that's our primary goal, is to increase awareness about this so that we avoid problems like that before they even start.
The emerald ash borer, I know there's always been a big push about the firewood. Be careful what firewood you bring in. What kind of firewood can you now bring in to a campsite?
Well, most of our state parks, especially, and really any of our state campgrounds, are pretty restrictive on the firewood that you are allowed to bring in. It either has to be stripped of all bark and sapwood, or it can be things like 2x4s and construction scrap, things like that. But if it's actual split firewood, it cannot have the bark on it unless you have purchased it from a firewood supplier that is certified through us that they either exclude the ash or split all the bark off the wood. And
we're going to learn more about that by just going to this event.
Yeah.
Because who will be there for them to talk to? You'll be there and you'll be there, right?
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
we can ask you questions if we need to?
Yeah, we'll have, we typically have about 8 to a dozen different professionals there. A lot of us are professionals in the forestry or natural resources industry, and we also have several very active private landowners on the committee that will be there. And these people own forests themselves and manage their own forests, so they're also very knowledgeable.
Well, it's interesting, not interesting, but exciting to know that the Soil and Water Conservation District's part of it too, because I always think of you as fields. That's really what you deal with the most, but you're also involved in forestry.
Yes. Every Soil and Water Conservation District sort of focuses on what's in their county, and because our county is a big woodworking county and involved in timber management, yes, we are involved in that as well.
The Ferdinand State Forest is a state forest. There are also state recreation areas, and then there are state parks. The Ferdinand State Forest, while it's a recreation area, really exists along with the Pike State Forest for forestry management, for timber?
Yes,
is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, when a lot of these state properties were first purchased and set up, a lot of that occurred in the early 1900s, particularly in the 1930s, sort of as the Depression era was coming about, and the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, you've probably heard of that. That was very active in setting up a lot of our state properties. And initially they were sort of divided into separate groups, as you've mentioned. State parks, state recreation areas, and state forests are kind of the primary ones. There's also state fish and wildlife areas. And each property sort of has its own sort of unique role that it fills. The state fish and wildlife areas are set aside primarily for wildlife habitat management and as an area for people to go and enjoy free public hunting and fishing. State parks were primarily set aside as sort of a recreational place, a place to go and see nature sort of take its course without a whole lot of human intervention. The state forest had a very different kind of goal from the very start, and that was to be a showcase for good forest management, but also to provide wood products and raw timber for not only the private industry, but also for state use. In the 1930s, there were a lot of buildings and shelter houses and such being built, and most of that timber came off of our state forest. So our state forest system has always been set aside as sort of a place to manage timber, both for the benefits that it provides to society, but also as a showcase of how that can be done properly.
And this Saturday is a chance to find out more about that and to learn about the forest system.
Yeah.
But you're also going to have a sawmill, which is kind of, isn't that a highlight for people? It's
Yeah.
a portable sawmill?
It's a portable sawmill. It's a Wood-Mizer brand sawmill, and it's a big hit. It was a big hit last year. You will see raw logs, a round log turned into a square flat board, and that's a pretty interesting process to sit there and watch, because in the general public, there can be a mentality that wood comes from
the store.
Home Depot or Kremp lumber.
Yeah, that's where it is. Right.
And it's what we're trying to do is raise awareness that the wood products that we use every day, and everyone's home is full of wood products, from furniture to framing to utensils, you name it. And all of that wood has to come from somewhere. And we just want to show people that that wood comes from the forest. We hope it's a sustainably managed forest. So we not only want to showcase how that's done in the woods itself, but also show sort of the first step in that process of turning a log into a board that can be turned into something else.
That's really interesting.
And when they're sawing it up, they study it to make sure they're maximizing the amount of boards that they're getting. So they'll cut the bark off in just really thin slices and then just slice the board up, and they'll turn the log to make sure they're getting the best wood that they can out of it, the most wood that they can.
Maximize the...
Yeah, running a sawmill is very much a science and an art. It's not something that just anybody can do.
You don't just take that log and just run it down.
No.
Right.
To get maximum yield, you really want to take your time with it.
Okay. Well, again, yes.
I was going to add another thing we have going on is Adam will be doing a chainsaw safety talk that morning as well, talking about personal protection and the safe way to use a chainsaw, because a lot of people get out and they cut their own firewood, so he'll be giving tips on how to stay safe while you're doing that.
Yeah. And this is the time of year when there's going to be a lot of trees that are coming down and people just want to get out and get them cleaned up.
Yes,
So
as I drive around the county, I see a lot of folks out in the yard using chainsaws, and a lot of them are not.
You, doesn't it?
A lot of them are not using them properly. So this will be just a very basic chainsaw safety course, talking really about protective gear that should be worn, and also just how to handle and use the chainsaw in a safer manner than what most people are used to.
Sounds like a lot of exciting things that everybody should take part in. Okay, Judy, can you run down again the time and
Sure.
where?
It's going to be at the Sycamore Shelters at the Ferdinand State Forest. It starts at 8 o'clock with the pancake breakfast, and then the different tours and events start at 9. So if you want a complete schedule, they could contact my office or Adam's office we can get a schedule to the people, or provide that information. It is on our Facebook page as well. So.
And it's free, and
Yes.
you don't need to pre-register. Just show up.
Well, we would like people to call if they plan to have the breakfast, just so we
Okay.
know, the Boy Scouts will know how many pancakes to fix then.
Okay.
So if you can, the forest office number is 367-1524, and we would like to have an estimated count on how many people are coming. So that is where to call for that information. And they also have copies of the flyer too, so they can provide information as to the schedule as well.
Very good. Well, I hope to see you. And remember, the nice thing about this is it's Saturday morning, so you still got the rest of Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening to do whatever you'd like.
Right.
All right, it's the Family Nature Fest at the Ferdinand State Forest this Saturday. Our guests have been Judi Brown with the Soil and Water Conservation District, and Adam Dumond, who is a forester, the district forester for Pike and Ferdinand and Dubois and all over the place.
Dubois, right. Martin, Davies, and Knox counties. Yes.
He's a busy guy, but you'll get a chance to spend some time with him on Saturday at the Ferdinand State Forest. Thank you for watching WJTS in.form. We are local people watching local people.